your life safely. We want you to heal. We know the pain that you feel. The heartache is real. Internal life safety.
Borderline personality disorder is possibly the most heartbreaking mental health issue. The suffering individual has it as a result of trauma, abuse, or neglect from very early childhood. As adults, they can cause tremendous emotional harm and even trauma to their loved ones. It is possible to have healthy, stable, wonderful relationships if steps are taken to put BPD into remission. It's a long road, but certainly worth it. Borderline personality disorder, or BPD, is a mental health condition characterized by intense emotional instability, difficulty in maintaining relationships, and an often distorted self-image. People with BPD experience strong emotional reactions that can shift rapidly, leading to frequent mood swings and intense episodes of anger, depression, or anxiety. Common symptoms include fear of abandonment. Individuals with BPD often have an overwhelming fear of being left alone or abandoned, which can lead to frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined separation. Unstable relationships. Relationships tend to be intense and short-lived, often swinging between extreme closeness and sudden disconnection. Identity disturbance. A shifting sense of self or an unstable self-image which can affect goals, values, and aspirations. Impulsive behaviors. Actions such as spending sprees, substance abuse, reckless driving, or self-harm can occur without considering the long-term consequences. Emotional instability. Extreme mood swings, including periods of intense happiness, irritability, or sadness, often triggered by external events. Chronic feelings of emptiness. A persistent sense of inner void or emptiness. Intense anger, inappropriate or uncontrollable anger which may be followed by shame or guilt. Paranoia or dissociation. Episodes of stress-related paranoia or feeling disconnected from reality. BPD is often treated through psychotherapy with the goal of helping individuals manage their emotions, improve relationships, and develop a more stable sense of self. Fear of abandonment is a core symptom of borderline personality disorder, often acting as a driving force behind many of the disorder's other symptoms. This intense and pervasive fear can have far-reaching negative effects on the individual's emotional well-being and relationships, making it one of the most challenging aspects of BPD to manage. The fear of abandonment in individuals with BPD often leads to behaviors aimed at preventing real or imagined rejection. These behaviors can include extreme clinginess, constant seeking of reassurance, or even testing the loyalty of loved ones through manipulative or self-sabotaging actions. Paradoxically, these attempts to prevent abandonment can strain relationships, sometimes pushing others away and triggering the very rejection the person fears. For example, an individual may become excessively demanding, monitoring their partner's every move, or become overly dependent, which can lead to frustration and withdrawal by the partner. Such dynamics can result in a cycle of conflict and distancing, reinforcing the individual's fear of abandonment. Fear of abandonment can exacerbate the entire spectrum of BPD symptoms. The intense emotional responses triggered by perceived threats of rejection can lead to severe mood swings, with feelings of despair, anger, or panic taking over. This emotional volatility, in turn, can drive impulsive behaviors such as self-harm, substance abuse, or reckless spending as the individual seeks to cope with their overwhelming feelings. The unstable relationships that result from this fear can further destabilize the individual's sense of identity, leading to greater confusion and a distorted self-image. Moreover, chronic feelings of emptiness may intensify as the individual's relationships deteriorate, leaving them feeling isolated and disconnected. The resulting stress can also provoke episodes of paranoia or dissociation, where the person feels disconnected from reality. Medication alone is often ineffective in addressing the fear of abandonment in BPD. While psychiatric medications can help alleviate some symptoms, such as anxiety or depression, they do not address the underlying emotional and relational issues that fuel this fear. BPD is deeply rooted in emotional dysregulation and interpersonal dynamics, areas that medication alone cannot adequately address. Thus, while medications might offer some relief from the emotional intensity, they do not fundamentally change the patterns of thinking and behavior that perpetuate the fear of abandonment. Psychotherapy, particularly dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, has been shown to be effective in alleviating the fear of abandonment in BPD. DBT helps individuals develop skills to manage their emotions, tolerate distress, and improve interpersonal effectiveness. Through therapy, individuals can learn to recognize and challenge their fears, build healthier relationships, and develop a more stable sense of self. Cognitive behavioral approaches can also be beneficial in identifying and changing the thought patterns that contribute to their fears. Additionally, building a strong therapeutic alliance where the individual feels understood and supported can help mitigate their fear of abandonment, providing a model for healthier relationships outside of therapy. In conclusion, fear of abandonment is a central and challenging aspect of BPD, with the potential to negatively affect an individual's life in profound ways. While medication may offer some symptom relief, it is through targeted psychotherapy that individuals can address the deep-rooted fears and emotional patterns underlying this symptom, leading to more stable and fulfilling relationships. Unstable relationships in borderline personality disorder. Unstable relationships are a hallmark symptom of borderline personality disorder, often characterized by a pattern of intense, short-lived connections that fluctuate between idealization and devaluation. These relationship dynamics can significantly impair the individual's social functioning and emotional stability, making it a crucial aspect of BPD to understand and manage. Negative manifestations. The instability in relationships often manifests as a pattern of splitting where the individual with BPD views others as either all good or all bad, with no middle ground. This black and white thinking can lead to abrupt shifts in how they perceive and interact with others. For instance, a person with BPD might initially idealize a friend or partner, believing them to be perfect. But at the slightest perceived slight or disagreement, they may suddenly view that person as entirely bad or untrustworthy. This can result in frequent arguments, breakups, and a general sense of chaos in their relationships. These unstable relationships often stem from the individual's deep-seated fear of abandonment. The intensity of their emotions can lead them to either cling too tightly to others or push them away out of fear of getting hurt. This push-pull dynamic can create a self-fulfilling prophecy, where their relationships become increasingly volatile and strained, further reinforcing their fears and insecurities. Worsening of other symptoms. Unstable relationships can exacerbate all other symptoms of BPD. The emotional turmoil created by these chaotic interactions often leads to severe mood swings, where the individual might oscillate between feelings of intense love and hatred, joy and despair. These emotional extremes can trigger impulsive behaviors, such as lashing out verbally or physically, engaging in risky sexual behavior or substance abuse, as the individual attempts to cope with the stress and confusion. The repeated cycle of idealization and devaluation can also worsen their identity disturbance, as the constant upheaval in relationships leaves the person struggling to maintain a consistent sense of self. This instability can heighten feelings of emptiness, leading to further isolation and loneliness. Additionally, the stress and conflict inherent in unstable relationships can trigger episodes of paranoia or dissociation, where the person may feel disconnected from reality or overly suspicious of others. Limitations of medication. Medication has limited effectiveness in addressing the underlying issues that cause unstable relationships in BPD. While psychiatric medications can help stabilize mood swings or reduce impulsivity, they do not address the deep-rooted cognitive and emotional patterns that drive relationship instability. BPD is fundamentally an issue of emotional dysregulation and interpersonal difficulties, areas that require more than just pharmacological intervention. Therefore, while medications may offer some symptom management, they are not sufficient to foster the interpersonal growth and emotional stability needed to maintain healthy relationships. Effective interventions. Psychotherapy, particularly dialectical behavior therapy, is highly effective in treating the relationship instability associated with BPD. DBT teaches individuals how to regulate their emotions, tolerate distress, and interact with others more effectively. Through therapy, individuals learn to recognize and modify the thought patterns and behaviors that lead to unstable relationships. They develop skills to maintain more balanced and healthy connections with others, reducing the tendency to idealize or devalue people in their lives. Cognitive behavioral approaches can also help by challenging the black and white thinking that often leads to relationship turmoil. Building a strong therapeutic relationship with a consistent and understanding therapist can also provide a model for healthier relationships outside of therapy. Over time, individuals with BPD can learn to create more stable and fulfilling connections, reducing the overall impact of their symptoms and improving their quality of life. In summary, unstable relationships are a significant and challenging symptom of BPD, contributing to a cycle of emotional and behavioral instability. While medication may help with some related symptoms, it is through targeted psychotherapy that individuals can learn to manage their relationship difficulties and develop more stable and satisfying connections. Identity disturbance in borderline personality disorder. Identity disturbance, or a markedly unstable sense of self, is a core symptom of borderline personality disorder. This symptom involves a fluctuating and often confused self-image, leading individuals to struggle with a coherent sense of identity. This instability can permeate various aspects of a person's life, including their values, goals, and even their perception of their own personality. Negative manifestations. Identity disturbance can manifest in several troubling ways. Individuals with BPD may frequently change their self-concept, sometimes adopting drastically different personas, interests, or life goals. For example, someone might suddenly shift from pursuing a career in one field to another, entirely unrelated one. Or they might change their values, appearance, or lifestyle in an attempt to find a sense of identity. These shifts can lead to inconsistent behavior and make it difficult for the person to form a stable sense of self over time. This lack of a stable identity can result in feelings of emptiness or purposelessness, as the individual struggles to understand who they are and what they truly want from life. It can also contribute to impulsive decisions, as the person may act on the spur of the moment, trying to fill the void left by their unstable sense of self. Moreover, their relationships can suffer, as others may find it challenging to connect with someone whose identity and behavior seem unpredictable or inconsistent. Worsening of other symptoms. Identity disturbance can exacerbate all other symptoms of BPD. The confusion and instability in self-image can intensify emotional instability, leading to more frequent and severe mood swings. When individuals do not have a clear sense of who they are, their emotions can become even more overwhelming and difficult to manage. This instability can drive impulsive behaviors, as the person might seek quick fixes or drastic changes to their lifestyle in an attempt to create a more defined sense of self. Unstable relationships, already a significant issue in BPD, can become even more problematic when identity disturbance is present. Without a stable self-concept, individuals may struggle to maintain consistent roles in their relationships, leading to further conflicts and misunderstandings. The chronic feelings of emptiness that often accompany identity disturbance can also heighten fears of abandonment, making the individual even more dependent on others for a sense of identity and self-worth. Furthermore, the stress and confusion associated with identity disturbance can increase the likelihood of paranoia or dissociation, as the person may feel increasingly disconnected from reality. Limitations of medication. Medication alone is generally ineffective in addressing the core issues related to identity disturbance in BPD. While medications can help manage certain symptoms like anxiety, depression, or mood swings, they do not address the underlying cognitive and emotional difficulties that contribute to an unstable sense of self. Identity disturbance is deeply rooted in the individual's emotional and psychological experiences, which cannot be altered simply through pharmacological means. Therefore, while medications might provide some relief from associated symptoms, they do not resolve the fundamental identity issues at the heart of this symptom. Effective interventions. Psychotherapy, particularly dialectical behavior therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, is crucial for addressing identity disturbance in BPD. These therapies focus on helping individuals develop a more stable and coherent sense of self by encouraging them to explore and understand their values, beliefs, and goals. Through therapy, individuals can learn to identify and challenge the thoughts and behaviors that contribute to their identity confusion. DBT, in particular, emphasizes mindfulness and self-acceptance, which can help individuals develop a more consistent and positive self-image over time. In therapy, individuals are guided to recognize patterns in their behavior and thoughts that undermine their sense of self. By gradually building self-awareness and understanding, they can work towards establishing a more stable identity. This process often involves exploring past experiences and relationships that have influenced their self-concept, allowing them to develop a more authentic and grounded sense of who they are. Additionally, building a supportive and trusting therapeutic relationship can help the individual feel more secure in exploring their identity issues, providing a safe space to experiment with and affirm a more consistent self-image. Over time, this can lead to a reduction in the intensity of other BPD symptoms, as a more stable identity helps the individual navigate their emotions and relationships more effectively. In summary, identity disturbance is a complex and challenging symptom of BPD that can negatively impact nearly every aspect of an individual's life. While medication alone is insufficient, targeted psychotherapy can help individuals develop a more stable and coherent sense of self, ultimately alleviating the distress associated with this symptom and improving overall functioning. Impulsive behaviors in borderline personality disorder. Impulsive behaviors are a prominent symptom of borderline personality disorder, often manifesting as actions taken without consideration of the long-term consequences. These behaviors can include reckless spending, substance abuse, binge eating, risky sexual activities, self-harm, and other forms of self-destructive actions. Impulsivity in BPD can lead to significant personal and social difficulties, exacerbating the overall impact of the disorder. Negative manifestations. Impulsive behaviors in individuals with BPD often arise from an inability to regulate emotions effectively. When experiencing intense emotions like anger, sadness, or anxiety, a person with BPD might engage in impulsive actions as a way to cope with or distract themselves from these feelings. However, these actions typically provide only temporary relief and often lead to feelings of guilt, shame, or regret once the impulsive urge has passed. For example, someone with BPD might impulsively spend large amounts of money in response to feelings of emptiness or emotional pain. While this might temporarily alleviate their distress, the financial consequences can lead to further stress and exacerbate feelings of instability. Similarly, impulsive behaviors such as substance abuse or risky sexual encounters can lead to dangerous situations, damaged relationships, and long-term health problems. These impulsive actions often perpetuate a cycle of emotional turmoil, where the consequences of impulsivity lead to more distress, which in turn triggers further impulsive behavior, worsening of other symptoms. Impulsive behaviors can worsen all other symptoms of BPD. The immediate but short-lived relief that comes from impulsive actions can reinforce emotional instability, as individuals may become more prone to acting on intense emotions without considering the consequences. This emotional volatility can also heighten fears of abandonment, as impulsive actions often lead to conflict or distancing in relationships. For instance, impulsive anger outbursts or risky behaviors might push others away, reinforcing the individual's fear of being left alone. Impulsivity can also exacerbate identity disturbance, as the consequences of these actions may lead to further confusion and instability in the person's self-concept. The guilt and regret that often follow impulsive actions can deepen feelings of emptiness and self-loathing, intensifying the overall emotional pain associated with BPD. Additionally, the stress caused by impulsive behaviors can trigger episodes of paranoia or dissociation, where the individual feels disconnected from reality or overly suspicious of others. Limitations of medication. Medication is generally not effective in directly addressing impulsive behaviors in BPD. While medications such as mood stabilizers or antidepressants may help reduce the intensity of emotional responses, they do not directly change the patterns of impulsivity or the underlying emotional dysregulation that drives these behaviors. Impulsivity in BPD is closely linked to cognitive and emotional processes, which require targeted therapeutic interventions rather than pharmacological solutions. As such, while medication might help with some associated symptoms, it does not resolve the core issue of impulsive behavior. Effective interventions. Psychotherapy, particularly dialectical behavior therapy, is the most effective approach for managing impulsive behaviors in BPD. DBT focuses on teaching individuals skills to regulate their emotions, tolerate distress, and improve decision-making. Through DBT, individuals learn to identify the triggers for their impulsive behaviors and develop healthier ways to cope with intense emotions. This might include strategies like mindfulness, which helps individuals stay present and aware of their emotions without acting on them impulsively. Cognitive behavioral therapy can also be effective in addressing the thought patterns that contribute to impulsivity. By challenging distorted thinking and developing more adaptive responses, individuals can reduce the likelihood of engaging in impulsive actions. Therapy often involves building awareness of the consequences of impulsive behaviors and learning to pause and reflect before acting. Furthermore, establishing a strong therapeutic relationship can provide a stable environment where individuals feel supported in exploring and changing their impulsive behaviors. Over time, with consistent practice of the skills learned in therapy, individuals with BPD can reduce the frequency and severity of impulsive actions, leading to more stable and fulfilling lives. In conclusion, impulsive behaviors are a significant and challenging symptom of BPD that can have far-reaching negative effects on an individual's life. While medication alone is insufficient to address these behaviors, targeted psychotherapy, particularly DBT and CBT, can help individuals develop the skills needed to manage impulsivity, leading to improved emotional stability and better overall functioning. Emotional instability in borderline personality disorder. Emotional instability, or affective dysregulation, is a core symptom of borderline personality disorder. It is characterized by intense and rapidly changing emotions, often triggered by seemingly minor events. These emotional fluctuations can be overwhelming and difficult to manage, profoundly affecting a person's daily life and relationships. Negative manifestations. Emotional instability in individuals with BPD often manifests as sudden and extreme mood swings, which can occur multiple times within a single day. These shifts in mood can range from intense happiness or euphoria to deep sadness, anger, or anxiety, often without a clear reason. For instance, a small disagreement or a perceived slight might trigger an overwhelming emotional reaction, such as uncontrollable crying, rage, or panic. This volatility can make it difficult for individuals to maintain stable relationships, as their unpredictable emotions can lead to misunderstandings and conflict with others. Emotional instability can also interfere with daily functioning, as the intensity of the emotions can be so overwhelming that it becomes difficult to concentrate on tasks, make decisions, or manage responsibilities. This can lead to a cycle of frustration and guilt, as the individual may feel out of control and unable to manage their emotional responses effectively. Worsening of other symptoms. Emotional instability can exacerbate nearly all other symptoms of BPD. For instance, the intense emotions triggered by perceived threats of abandonment or relationship conflicts can lead to impulsive behaviors, such as self-harm, substance abuse, or reckless actions, as the person seeks immediate relief from their emotional distress. The constant fluctuations in mood can also contribute to identity disturbance, as the individual may struggle to maintain a consistent sense of self amid their rapidly changing emotional states. Unstable relationships, a hallmark of borderline personality disorder, are often worsened by emotional instability. The unpredictability of the person's emotions can strain connections with others, leading to more frequent conflicts and misunderstandings. Chronic feelings of emptiness are a significant and distressing symptom of borderline personality disorder. This pervasive sense of inner void or hollowness can deeply affect an individual's mental and emotional well-being, often leading to other problematic behaviors and worsening the overall impact of the disorder. Chronic feelings of emptiness in individuals with borderline personality disorder often manifest as a deep sense of nothingness, where the person may feel disconnected from themselves, others, and the world around them. This feeling is not just occasional boredom or dissatisfaction, it is a persistent, overwhelming sensation that life lacks meaning or purpose. To cope with these feelings, individuals might engage in behaviors that temporarily fill this void. These behaviors can include substance abuse, binge eating, promiscuous or risky sexual activities, and other forms of impulsive actions that offer short-term relief, but often lead to long-term negative consequences. For example, a person might overeat or use drugs in an attempt to numb the emptiness, only to feel worse afterward, which can perpetuate a cycle of self-destructive behavior. This sense of emptiness can also lead to difficulties in maintaining relationships, as the individual may feel emotionally detached or incapable of genuine connection with others, which can further exacerbate feelings of isolation and loneliness. Chronic feelings of emptiness can exacerbate nearly all other symptoms of borderline personality disorder. The pervasive sense of void can intensify emotional instability, as the person may become more prone to mood swings in response to their internal feelings of nothingness. For instance, the emptiness can trigger episodes of intense sadness, anger, or anxiety, leading to further emotional turmoil. This can also worsen impulsive behaviors, as the individual might seek increasingly extreme actions to try to alleviate the emptiness, often with harmful consequences. Identity disturbance can be significantly impacted by chronic feelings of emptiness. When someone feels empty, they may struggle even more to maintain a stable sense of self, as the void can make it difficult to connect with their own values, goals, or identity. This can lead to further confusion and instability in their self-image. Unstable relationships may also worsen, as the person may rely on others to fill their sense of emptiness, leading to clinginess, dependency, or conflict when those needs are not met. Additionally, the stress of dealing with chronic emptiness can trigger episodes of paranoia or dissociation, where the person feels detached from reality, further complicating their ability to function in daily life. Limitations of medication. Medication is generally ineffective in directly addressing chronic feelings of emptiness in borderline personality disorder. While certain medications such as antidepressants or mood stabilizers might help with some symptoms like depression or anxiety that can accompany feelings of emptiness, they do not directly address the underlying cognitive and emotional issues that cause this pervasive sense of void. Chronic emptiness is deeply rooted in the individual's emotional experiences and psychological processes, which require therapeutic intervention rather than pharmacological treatment. Therefore, while medication can offer some relief from co-occurring symptoms, it does not resolve the core issue of chronic emptiness. Psychotherapy, particularly dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, is the most effective treatment for managing chronic feelings of emptiness in borderline personality disorder. DBT teaches individuals skills to build a more meaningful and fulfilling life by focusing on mindfulness, emotion regulation, and distress tolerance. Through DBT, individuals learn to recognize and address the thoughts and behaviors that contribute to their feelings of emptiness. Mindfulness practices in particular can help individuals become more aware of the present moment and reduce the focus on the inner void, gradually helping them to reconnect with themselves and their environment. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, can also be beneficial by helping individuals challenge and change the negative thought patterns that contribute to their feelings of emptiness. By learning to identify and reframe these thoughts, individuals can develop a more positive and constructive outlook on life, which can reduce the intensity of their emptiness. Building a strong therapeutic relationship is crucial in this process, as it provides a safe space for individuals to explore and address their feelings of emptiness. Engaging in meaningful activities, setting personal goals, and building a sense of purpose through therapy can help individuals fill the void they experience, leading to a more satisfying and stable life. In summary, chronic feelings of emptiness are a challenging and pervasive symptom of borderline personality disorder that can deeply affect an individual's life. While medication may provide some symptom relief, targeted psychotherapy, particularly DBT and CBT, is essential for helping individuals develop a more meaningful and fulfilling life, thereby reducing the impact of this symptom. Intense anger, often referred to as inappropriate or uncontrolled anger, is a common and challenging symptom of borderline personality disorder. This anger can be disproportionate to the situation and may be difficult for the individual to control, leading to significant personal and interpersonal consequences. Intense anger in individuals with BPD often manifests as sudden, explosive outbursts that can be triggered by minor frustrations or perceived slights. This anger might be expressed verbally, such as through yelling or harsh words, or physically, including acts of aggression like throwing objects, slamming doors, or even physical violence. These outbursts are often followed by feelings of guilt, shame, or regret. But in the moment, the individual may feel overwhelmed by their anger and unable to control their reactions, This intense anger can severely damage relationships as it can create fear, resentment, and mistrust among friends, family members, and romantic partners. The person's unpredictability can make it difficult for others to feel safe or secure in the relationship, leading to distancing or even the termination of the relationship. Furthermore, the individual with BPD might also turn their anger inward, leading to self-harm or self-destructive behaviors as a way to cope with the intense emotions. Intense anger can exacerbate nearly all other symptoms of BPD. For example, the outbursts of anger can increase the instability in relationships, as others may respond with anger or withdrawal, which in turn can heighten the person's fear of abandonment. This fear may then trigger further emotional instability, leading to a vicious cycle of anger, conflict, and emotional pain. The experience of intense anger can also worsen impulsive behaviors, as the individual may engage in reckless or self-destructive actions in the heat of the moment without considering the long-term consequences. This might include substance abuse, reckless driving, or aggressive confrontations that further complicate their personal and social lives. Identity disturbance can also be affected by intense anger. The overwhelming nature of these emotional outbursts can make it difficult for the individual to maintain a coherent sense of self, as they may feel disconnected from their values or identity when they are overcome by anger. The chronic feelings of emptiness that many individuals with BPD experience can be intensified after episodes of intense anger, as the aftermath of an outburst often leaves the person feeling drained, guilty, and further alienated from others. Additionally, the stress and interpersonal conflict caused by intense anger can trigger episodes of paranoia or dissociation, where the person may feel disconnected from reality or overly suspicious of others' intentions. This can further isolate the individual and make it difficult for them to engage in healthy relationships or cope effectively with their emotions. Medication is generally insufficient to directly address intense anger in BPD. While certain medications, such as mood stabilizers or antipsychotics, might help to reduce the frequency or intensity of anger outbursts by stabilizing mood, they do not address the underlying cognitive and emotional processes that trigger and sustain these outbursts. Intense anger in BPD is often deeply rooted in emotional dysregulation, past trauma, and interpersonal dynamics, which require therapeutic interventions rather than solely pharmacological treatment. Therefore, while medication can provide some symptom relief, it does not resolve the core issue of uncontrolled anger. Effective interventions. Psychotherapy, particularly dialectical behavior therapy or DBT, is the most effective treatment for managing intense anger in borderline personality disorder. DBT teaches individuals skills to regulate their emotions, including anger, by focusing on mindfulness, distress tolerance, and emotion regulation. Through DBT, individuals learn to recognize the early signs of anger, understand its triggers, and apply techniques to manage and diffuse the anger before it escalates into an outburst. For example, mindfulness exercises can help individuals stay grounded and aware of their emotions without being overwhelmed by them, while distress tolerance techniques can provide alternative ways to cope with anger-provoking situations. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, can also be effective in helping individuals identify and challenge the thought patterns that contribute to their anger. By learning to reframe negative thoughts and develop more constructive responses to perceived slights or frustrations, individuals can reduce the intensity and frequency of their anger outbursts. Building a strong therapeutic relationship is crucial, as it provides a safe environment for the individual to explore their anger and its underlying causes. Therapy can also help individuals develop healthier communication skills, enabling them to express their feelings and needs in ways that do not lead to conflict or aggression. In summary, intense anger is a significant and challenging symptom of borderline personality disorder that can have far-reaching negative effects on an individual's life. While medication may offer some relief, targeted psychotherapy, particularly DBT and CBT, is essential for helping individuals develop the skills needed to manage their anger effectively, leading to improved emotional regulation and better interpersonal relationships. Paranoia or dissociation are symptoms of borderline personality disorder that often emerge during times of extreme stress or emotional distress. These experiences can be disorienting and frightening, further complicating the individual's ability to function and maintain relationships. Paranoia in individuals with borderline personality disorder typically manifests as irrational or exaggerated fears that others are out to harm, deceive, or abandon them. This might include believing that friends or loved ones are secretly plotting against them, or that they are being unfairly judged or criticized by others. These paranoid thoughts can lead to extreme mistrust and suspicion, causing the individual to distance themselves from others, confront people aggressively, or withdraw from social situations entirely. Dissociation, on the other hand, involves a sense of disconnection from reality or oneself. This can range from feeling unreal or detached from one's own body or thoughts to more severe episodes where the individual feels as though they are watching themselves from outside their body or have lost touch with their surroundings altogether. Dissociation can occur during times of high stress or emotional pain as a way for the individual to protect themselves from the overwhelming feelings they are experiencing. Both paranoia and dissociation can severely disrupt daily life. Paranoia can lead to strained or broken relationships, as the individual may act out based on unfounded fears or suspicions. Dissociation can impair the person's ability to concentrate, make decisions, or engage in daily activities, as they may feel disconnected from reality or unable to function normally. Paranoia and dissociation can exacerbate nearly all other symptoms of BPD. For instance, paranoia can worsen the instability in relationships, as the individual's mistrust and suspicion can lead to conflicts, misunderstandings, and isolation. This can further heighten their fear of abandonment, leading to more intense emotional instability and impulsive behaviors as they struggle to cope with the perceived threat. Dissociation can also exacerbate identity disturbance, as the sense of disconnection from oneself can make it even more difficult for the individual to maintain a stable sense of identity. The feelings of emptiness that often accompany BPD can be intensified by dissociation, as the person may feel even more disconnected from themselves and the world around them. Furthermore, the stress and fear associated with paranoia can trigger intense anger, leading to outbursts that further alienate the individual from others. Dissociation, meanwhile, can make it challenging for the person to engage in meaningful relationships or activities, as they may feel detached or disconnected from their emotions and surroundings. Medication alone is generally insufficient in addressing paranoia and dissociation in BPD. While certain medications, such as antipsychotics, may help reduce the intensity of paranoid thoughts, and some antidepressants or mood stabilizers might mitigate the conditions that exacerbate dissociation, these treatments do not address the underlying emotional and cognitive processes that cause these symptoms. Paranoia and dissociation in BPD are often linked to deep-seated issues of trauma, emotional dysregulation, and interpersonal difficulties, which require targeted therapeutic interventions to effectively manage. Therefore, while medication can provide some symptom relief, it does not resolve the core issues underlying paranoia and dissociation. Psychotherapy, particularly dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, is the most effective treatment for managing paranoia and dissociation in BPD. DBT teaches individuals skills to manage stress and emotional dysregulation, which are often triggers for these symptoms. Through mindfulness practices, individuals can learn to stay grounded in the present moment, reducing the likelihood of dissociation. Additionally, DBT helps individuals challenge and reframe paranoid thoughts, fostering a more realistic and balanced perspective on their relationships and interactions with others. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, can also be effective in addressing paranoia by helping individuals identify and challenge distorted thinking patterns that contribute to their fears and suspicions. By learning to replace these thoughts with more rational and constructive beliefs, individuals can reduce the intensity and frequency of their paranoid episodes. For dissociation, grounding techniques are particularly useful. These techniques, which are often part of DBT, help individuals reconnect with their bodies and surroundings, bringing them back to the present moment. Techniques might include focusing on sensory experiences, such as touching a textured object or listening to specific sounds, which can help pull the individual out of a dissociative state. Building a strong therapeutic relationship is crucial in this process, as it provides a safe and supportive environment for the individual to explore and address the underlying causes of their paranoia and dissociation. Over time, with consistent practice of the skills learned in therapy, individuals with BPD can reduce the impact of these symptoms and improve their overall functioning and well-being. In summary, paranoia and dissociation are significant and distressing symptoms of BPD that can have far-reaching effects on an individual's life. While medication may offer some symptom relief, targeted psychotherapy, particularly DBT and CBT, is essential for helping individuals manage these symptoms effectively, leading to improved emotional regulation and a greater sense of connection with themselves and others. People with borderline personality disorder often resist diagnosis in the beginning for several reasons, rooted in the nature of the disorder itself and the stigma associated with mental health issues. Fear of stigma and judgment. BPD carries a significant social stigma even within the mental health community. Many people fear being labeled as difficult or manipulative, common stereotypes associated with BPD. The prospect of being diagnosed with a personality disorder can feel overwhelming, as it suggests a pervasive and deep-seated issue, which can lead to fear of being judged or misunderstood by others. Identity disturbance, a core symptom of BPD, means that individuals often have a fragile or unstable sense of self. A diagnosis can feel threatening because it may challenge their already tenuous self-concept. Being told they have BPD might feel like a label that they cannot reconcile with their own understanding of who they are, leading to resistance as a defense mechanism. Fear of abandonment and rejection is a common experience for individuals with borderline personality disorder. Often, they have an intense worry that receiving a diagnosis will lead to others distancing themselves. This fear stems from the idea that people might not want to be associated with someone who has a mental health disorder, or they might believe they will be perceived as too much to handle. As a result, this fear can cause individuals to reject the diagnosis as a way to protect themselves from potential rejection. Paranoia and mistrust are also symptoms of borderline personality disorder, and they can lead individuals to question the intentions of healthcare providers. They may believe that the diagnosis is incorrect or that the clinician is misjudging them, which often leads to resistance. This mistrust can be particularly strong if they have had negative experiences with mental health professionals in the past. Emotional instability. The emotional instability characteristic of borderline personality disorder can also play a role in resisting diagnosis. During times of emotional distress, the individual might feel overwhelmed by the prospect of confronting their mental health issues. The fluctuating emotions can make it difficult for them to process the diagnosis calmly and rationally, leading to denial or avoidance. Fear of change. Being diagnosed with BPD often implies the need for long-term intensive therapy, such as dialectical behavior therapy or DBT. The prospect of engaging in such deep, often challenging work can be daunting. The fear of confronting painful emotions and memories can cause the individual to resist the diagnosis, as it signals the beginning of a potentially difficult journey of self-discovery and healing. Self-stigma. Internalized stigma or self-stigma can cause individuals to view themselves negatively because of their symptoms. They may already feel broken or flawed, and the diagnosis of BPD can feel like a confirmation of their worst fears about themselves. This self-stigma can lead to resistance as a way to avoid further damaging their self-esteem. Lack of insight. Some individuals with BPD may not have full insight into the extent of their symptoms or how these symptoms affect their lives and relationships. They might perceive their behaviors as justified reactions to external circumstances, rather than symptoms of a disorder. This lack of insight can lead to resistance because they do not see themselves as having a mental health condition that requires treatment.
Find heavenly peace. that you feel